Hi, Brigham. How are you today?
Good, Vandy. How are you?
Doing good. Alrighty. So, what would you say is your main goal for this session?
So, um, a little bit different from what we've been doing.
Okay. Sure, no
Um,
problem.
I was taking a little bit of a break and was doing
Yeah.
a just a regular story and with a bunch of character voices. And I stumbled across an area that I realized I'd never had to really deal with up until now, but I should have known would probably happen. And it's a story that has a lot of that there are a few scenes where like there's three women talking to each other.
Okay.
Um, and I feel like I only have one go-to, you know, girl voice, you
Sure.
know, especially because these girls are supposed to be like in their 30s. Um, so and I realized that I was having a really hard time um distinguishing between the three
Sure.
different voices that I was using. And
Sure.
I was like, oh, I need to remember to bring this up with Vandy.
Right. That you feel like they all kind of sound the same. And you're like,
Yeah,
gosh, what do I do to make them distinct from each other?
yeah. Like
Yeah, we
I
can definitely work on that.
Yeah, like I have like different things that I do for each one. It's just I feel like it's
Sure.
not distinct enough.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So, do you have this script?
even I copied over just a couple
Oh, perfect. Great.
sections.
Nice. Alrighty. So, the first thing I like to do is figure out who each character is,
Mhm.
and then I can kind of figure out, what I want to do with their voice based on them and their personality.
Yeah,
So, okay, so tell me a little bit about each character. So, how many female characters do we have?
we have three.
Okay.
Hold on, let me. Okay, so they're all from this small town. Um, they're all in this small town, 19 early 1920s, I believe,
Yeah.
slash late 1910s. Um, and yeah, small town in Illinois. Um, they're all going out to the movies. Um, however, um, there has been this mysterious killer that comes to the town once a month and usually kills one of the women in the town. Um, and these three women um, are kind of considered the quote unquote old maids of the town, which in
Sure.
that day and age means that they're in their 30s. They're the single ones in their 30s. Um,
Right.
um, and so the main one is that it's focused on is Lavinia Nebbs, and um, she is very kind of headstrong. Um, and she is friends with these two other girls, Francine and Helen, and they're going to go see a movie that night in the
Mhm.
town. But that means kind of walking by themselves at night, at one point even through the ravine, and just um, at the beginning of the story, Francine and Lavinia even find the next victim and call the police, and they have to go take care of it and everything.
Sure,
But
yeah.
yeah, Francine is the one who's very kind of hysterical, kind of the one who's always panicking, on always easily cries, when she starts to get scared. Um, Lavinia is the one that's always just, trying to be like, no, like we're gonna go, like we're still gonna go to the movies, even though this happened. Like we need to get our minds off of this. We're gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna hurt us. It's okay. And then they pick up their last friend, Helen, who is kind of piecing together what happened. And she isn't as hysterical as Francine, but you can tell that she's uncomfortable and that she's like, I I don't know
Yeah.
if this is such a good idea. Um, um, but Lavinia is very much the leader, the one who's like, no, we're going. and this is what we're going to do.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So they all have a distinct personality, like a characteristic, you know. Um, so that's nice that they're different. They have distinctive characteristics. So now we have to figure out how to translate that into vocals, right? So if they were male characters, what would you do vocally with them?
Hmm. I think I would probably give the main character probably my most like natural voice, because they ultimately do the most talking, um and not like the same as like my narrator voice, like obviously still give that headstrong, but not like I wouldn't try to make it super high or super low or anything like that, just kind of right in the middle, um and just very determined, um taking charge, and just kind of masculine sounding. um and then the more hysterical one, I'd probably give um a more, well, if it was guys, I'd probably give them a little bit more of uh you're picturing someone almost a little small,
Hmm.
uh and maybe a little bit nerdy, so maybe a little bit higher, a little bit more nasally, um a little bit more frantic in the way that they speak,
Yeah,
um whereas the main character probably speaks very calmly and very collected, uh even though they're also taking charge. And then the third friend, I'd probably give a little bit lower voice, um, just to um, just to make it a little bit more distinct. And since they do remain fairly calm, I feel like that'd be okay. Um,
sure.
but it also doesn't make it like this main character has this like kind of voice. Um, so that's probably where I would go,
Sure.
and just kind of that trying to stay calm, but like clearly isn't. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So, how could we translate that into female voices?
So when I was reading it, with the main girl, um, I think I think that's where I put the least amount of like, I guess, maybe not the least amount of distinct. Like with the main girl, I think I made her voice a bit louder, a bit more uh pronounced, a bit more, you know, calm,
Sure.
you know, and just kind of well spoken, and you know, just to kind of represent that she's remaining calm. Um, and I do kind of give it that brightness that I do for every time I voice a female character,
Yeah.
but I go a little bit lower than usual than I think for most girls that I do.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and then for Francine, the more hysterical one, obviously, uh, a lot more breathy, a lot more high pitched, a lot more emotional sounding, like she's barely, keeping herself composed.
Hmm.
Um, and then for Helen, the third friend, I also kind of gave her just a little bit lower voice, but just not nearly as headstrong as the main one.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe just a little bit quieter. Um, yeah.
Okay. Great. All right, so let's take one line for each character and we're going to work on crafting the character voice. All right. Now, I always try to think of as much contrast as possible to make them distinct. So things like this one talks faster, this one talks slower, this one has a higher pitch voice, a lower pitch voice, this one has an accent. This one has kind of a whiny quality. This one sounds kind of hooty. This one sounds egotistical and like all the time. Um, this one talks in a vocal fry. This one sounds like a smoker. All things that, can differentiate them. Yeah. So that's what you just did, where you were identifying traits for each. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead. We're going to do each individual line. So what's our first line we're going to work on and which character?
Um, so this is right after they've found the body, they've called the police. The first two, the police are investigating it, and Lavinia is making Francine basically strong arming her, saying like, "No, we're going to the movies. It's going to be fine. Like, this is what we need." Um, and they go to pick up their third friend, Helen. And so Helen is the first one that speaks, and it's her basically waiting on her front steps for them to pick her up.
Great.
Okay. There you are. I thought you ladies had never come. Helen Greer stood tapping her foot atop her porch steps. You're only an hour late, that's all. What happened?
Okay. So with those couple lines, how do you feel that you did?
Um, Not bad. Um, I think I think it could be a little bit more distinct.
Yeah, I think so. We could take it a little farther. So let's try that
Yeah.
again.
There you are. I thought you ladies had never come. Helen Greer stood tapping her foot atop her porch steps. You're only an hour late, that's all. What happened?
Okay, I thought that was better.
Hmm.
What do you think?
It was definitely better. I put more of the just kind of general emotion into it, just like the there you are, Um, like and then like the what happened, Um, and I don't think I focused as much on trying to make it feminine sounding. Um, like like I did, but I feel like I just was a little bit more subtle. Like
Sure.
I feel like there
Right.
wasn't as much of a
Right.
need.
More feminine than you, but like not as feminine as other characters. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's okay. I think that there are, all different kinds of females in the world. So
yeah,
I think that's great.
yeah.
So yeah, so a little more
And I mean, like,
subtlety with this one.
yeah, and I feel like the audience, like, they know it's a girl, so
Yeah.
like, so I'm, yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So let's do it one more time. And if you were going to take it even further, what's something you could do to make them even more distinct from each other?
Um, hmm. Since she is a bit more calm, and at this point, she still doesn't really know what happened. Um,
Mm.
I could probably make it a bit more calm, a bit more, um, just kind of irritated, but like slow. No, not slow, but like slow it down, like I always do, like I always say, um, and just kind of more relaxed.
Okay, good. All right. So when we think of like relaxed, like more of a sense of ease with the character.
Yeah,
Okay.
like yeah, like I mean, at this point, her biggest concern is just that like where were you guys? So okay.
Okay, let's try it again.
There you are. I thought you ladies had never come. Helen Greer stood tapping her foot atop her porch steps. You're only an hour late, that's all. What happened?
Okay, good. I liked that. What did you think?
I thought that was good.
I did too. All right, so do you want to go to another chunk?
Um, sure. Let's let's go to skip the where Francine starts to speak and just to Lavinia.
Sure.
Just
Yeah,
that
that's
way I
good.
can
Yeah,
distinguish
just jump
between
straight to that.
those
Yeah.
two. Yeah. Lavinia clutched her arm tight. There was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Okay, so what does this one need?
So at this point, she's lying. I feel like I could make that a little bit more like, she's because she's clutching Francine, and like hinting
Mhm.
to her, like, somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell. Um, and hmm, I feel like it sounded a little bit close to Helen, so maybe a little bit, just the slightest bit higher.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Okay. So, should we try that again?
sure. Lavinia clutched her arm tight. There was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Okay. I think there can be more like urgency because, I mean, someone's dead,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit too casual.
Yeah. Let's try that
Okay,
again.
okay. There was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Could you be kind of like maybe out of breath? Like you just ran to tell them this? Like, oh,
Yeah, there was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
that also kind of had like a you're nervous to tell them. Maybe you're worried about how they're going to react.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was good. I like it. Awesome. So, hmm, how can we make this character even more distinct from the others? Like she could be a little bit more um, reactive, like worked up, dramatic.
I'm That's the thing. It's like I'm because like she's the one that's ultimately trying to keep the others calm.
So then the opposite. So she needs to be a little bit more like, well, there was this happened.
Here's what
So
happened.
a little
Yeah,
more like, they're gonna freak out, but you're trying to keep them from doing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. It's okay.
Okay, let's try it again.
There was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Nice. Yeah. I think
Um,
there could still be some of that hesitation though, like, well, I don't quite want to tell you this.
yeah,
Yeah. We
okay,
put a little more of that hesitation back in.
yeah, yeah. There was a there was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty good. It's like a good balance, I feel like, with the hesitation. I don't really want to tell you because I think you're going to be upset, but also with that element of, but she's kind of practical and pragmatic and she's trying to hold it all together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like it. Good. Awesome. Cool. Do you want to
Okay.
do another chunk or maybe do like a little bit before and after that line?
Yeah. Let's do that one and the next two lines because it
Okay.
is. Actually, let's do the next three because it goes from Lavinia to Helen, back to Lavinia.
Okay,
Or sorry, to Lavinia to Helen to Lavinia.
sure.
Okay. There was a commotion. Somebody found Elizabeth Ramsell in the ravine. Dead? Was she dead? Lavinia nodded. Helen gasped and put her hand to her throat. Who found her? Lavinia held Francine's wrist firmly. We don't know.
Good. Yeah, I really like too how your narrator didn't feel detached, but felt like you were emotionally connected and
Oh, yay.
invested in the outcome.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
I was worried how that was sounding.
Yeah, I thought that came across really well. Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Okay, so then,
Yeah.
all right. So,
Um,
which character
if
voice do you feel like is the most challenging, the hardest?
once they start to interact a lot, I feel
Hmm.
like Helen is
Okay.
usually the hardest
Yeah.
because Lavinia, is very distinct, headstrong. No, we're getting a little blah, and Francine's a bit more, frantic, hysterical. Helen is just
Yeah.
like nervous but composed.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so if maybe I'll just do the dialogue, starting with the next paragraph where with the
Sure.
but finally she went to get a sweater because
Yeah.
that finishes with Francine whispering,
Hmm.
and then
Okay.
I'll just jump from dialogue to dialogue with the next three
Sure.
lines. Okay. Okay. While she was gone, Francine whispered frantically, "Why didn't you tell her? Why upset her?" said Lavinia. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's plenty of time. The three women moved along the street under the black trees, past suddenly locked houses. We're crazy being out on a night like this, said Helen. Lonely one won't kill three ladies, said Lavinia. There's safety in numbers. And besides, it's too soon. The killings always come a month separated.
Okay.
Eh.
What do you think?
Um, it wasn't bad. Um, maybe Lavinia, especially at the end there, um, I feel like she could be maybe regaining her confidence and speaking a little bit more decisively.
Hmm.
Um, Francine, I thought was good. And then Helen, maybe it was good.
Okay, all right. So what do
It's a
you
little hard to
want
say.
to be hearing for each character that you maybe aren't hearing right now?
I, mm, I guess I'm just not really sure, just because it's like when you're doing the when you're doing three female voices, it's just like, okay, do they sound distinct? Can you tell the difference between the three of them? Like
Yeah.
if it didn't say said Olivia or said Helen or something like that, like would you be able to tell who was who?
I mean, I feel like I can. I think it is obvious when you're changing characters. Um, to me, I'm able to hear those subtleties, but if you want to exaggerate it a little bit more, we can. Sometimes I think that
Okay.
starting out exaggerating more can be helpful so that then you can kind of back up off of it and get a little more subtlety. But if you're too subtle, then you're always kind of on the fence and unsure, like, is it coming across? Is it not? And you don't really know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me try it again with a bit more, a little bit heavier. Okay.
Sure.
While she was gone, Francine whispered frantically, "Why didn't you tell her? Why upset her?" said Lavinia. "Tomorrow. Tomorrow's plenty of time." The three women moved along the street under the black trees, past suddenly locked houses. "We're crazy being out on a night like this," said Helen. "Lonely one won't kill three ladies," said Lavinia. "There's safety in numbers. And besides, it's too soon. The killings always come a month separated."
Okay. What do you think of that?
I think it
Do you
was
like it
better.
better? I
I did like it better, yes.
thought
Yeah.
so. All right. Yeah, you're like, I don't know. Yeah, and it's
It's
okay
like,
if
I don't
you're kind of like insecure or unsure about it because it's different than your comfort zone. And that's okay. It's okay to be like, this
Yeah.
I'm not super comfortable with yet, you know? And that's okay. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So that's just where you are right now. But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. Um, in the second half that I posted, it's just a second
Yeah.
um scene in the story. Um,
Yeah, sure.
it's after they go to the movies. Yeah, it's after they go to the movies. At one point, Helen thinks that they see someone that was following them. Um, and so she, like kind of makes a little bit of a commotion trying to get like everyone's attention. Turns out it was
Hmm.
just nobody, and they're laughing about it in the
Surprise.
soda shop after the movie. Um,
Yeah,
the police have basically warned everyone in the town to like go home right away because of the killing and everything like
right.
that.
Right. And they're like, hey, like everyone's safety is at
Okay.
risk. So go home. Okay, great. So let's go
Yeah.
ahead and let's look at
Yeah.
this
Exactly.
this chunk here.
But this is them kind of laughing about it afterwards.
Sure.
Okay. They tapped their empty soda glasses down, each with a vanilla mustache on their upper lip, which they found with their tongues, laughing. "You see how silly?" said Lavinia. "All that riot for nothing. How embarrassing." "I'm sorry," said Helen faintly. The clock said 11:30 now. They had come out of the dark theater, away from the fluttering rush of men and women hurrying everywhere, nowhere on the street, while laughing at Helen. Helen was trying to laugh at herself. "Helen, when you ran up that aisle crying lights, I thought I'd die. That poor man. The theater manager's brother from Racine." "I apologized. I apologized," said Helen, looking up at the great fan still whirling the warm late night air, restirring of vanilla, raspberry, peppermint, and Lysol. "We shouldn't have stopped for these sodas. The police warned." "Oh, bosh the police," laughed Lavinia. "I'm not afraid of anything. The lonely one is a million miles away now. He won't be back for weeks, and the police will get him then. Just wait. Wasn't the film wonderful?" "Closing up, ladies." The druggist switched off the lights in the cool, white tiled silence.
Okay. Yay. You have a character that could be a male character.
Yeah, it's a relief.
Finally. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Do you feel like he's more like scolding or is he kind of like, okay, guys, time to go home? Like a little more like, ah, youth. Like, how do you feel like his attitude is towards them?
I would say maybe even a little reluctant to let them
Oh,
go.
oh,
They
you're like
actually have a
worried
little bit of
about
an
them.
interaction with him earlier. Yeah, they actually have a little bit of an
Yeah.
interaction with them earlier in the story, and um, they find out that he had given Lavinia's info to a stranger, not thinking that it would be anything. But
Hmm.
then he found out about the killing that night, and suddenly now they're all a bit more on edge. So the druggist feels
Yeah.
really bad, and so he's really concerned about them.
Oh no. He's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, you gotta go now, but let's all walk to the car together.
yeah,
So more
yeah,
concerned.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Kind of a reluctant, like, sorry, but sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, but you gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get that this first time. So we gotta do that again.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't really. He was kind of an afterthought.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, let's try it again.
Okay. They tapped their empty soda glasses down, each with a vanilla mustache on their upper lip, which they found with their tongues, laughing. You see how silly, said Lavinia. All that riot for nothing. How embarrassing. I'm sorry, said Helen faintly. The clock said 11:30 now. They had come out of the dark theater, away from the fluttering rush of men and women hurrying everywhere, nowhere, on the street, while laughing at Helen. Helen was trying to laugh at herself. Helen, when you ran up that aisle crying lights, I thought I'd die. That poor man. The theater manager's brother from Racine. I apologized. I apologized, said Helen, looking up at the great fan still whirling the warm late night air, restirring the smells of vanilla, raspberry, peppermint, and Lysol. We shouldn't have stopped for these sodas. The police warned. Oh, bosh the police, laughed Lavinia. I'm not afraid of anything. The lonely one is a million miles away now. He won't be back for weeks, and the police will get him then. Just wait. Wasn't the film wonderful? Closing up, ladies. The druggist switched off the lights in the cool, white-tiled silence.
Okay. Yeah, and can we play up a little bit more of that? Like they're young, they don't really get how serious it is and how dangerous it is.
Yeah,
Like just that whimsical, youthful, like we're just giggling and goofing off and gossiping and getting snacks.
yeah, yeah,
Like play up the just kind of like, it'll be fine, you know.
yeah. Helen, when you ran up that aisle crying lights, I thought I'd die. That poor man, the theater manager's brother from Racine. I apologized, said Helen, looking up at the great fan still whirling the warm late night air, restirring the smells of vanilla, raspberry, peppermint, and Lysol. We shouldn't have stopped
Yeah,
for these sodas.
good, keep
Was that?
going.
We shouldn't have stopped for these sodas. The police warned. Oh, bosh the police, laughed Lavinia. I'm not afraid of anything. The lonely one is a million miles away now. He won't be back for weeks, and the police will get him then. Just wait. Wasn't the film wonderful? Closing up, ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, like that it's serious and are concerned for them, but they're just
Yeah,
like, it'll be fine.
yeah,
We're young, we're gonna live forever.
yeah, yeah. Which is yeah, and like whenever during the narration parts, like I want to still maintain that kind of serious, like it's getting later, and like
Yeah, that you're like, it's dark out there and I'm concerned, like maybe you should go home and,
yeah,
stay safe.
yeah, and just like I mean, even the wording is kind of a little bit ominous, like still whirling the warm late night air, restirring the smells,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's hurrying everywhere, nowhere, it's so like the narrator is definitely very aware of like yeah, they think everything's all right, but
Little do they know what's coming. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Good. Yeah, I definitely think that was better that time. So if you were going to kind of give yourself a note on that, what would that be?
Um, I would say um uh maybe like that they're forgetting about the danger. Like Francine, of course, being the frantic one, is the first one to kind of start to be like, maybe we should go, um, and but maybe just like that they're still very, very lighthearted. Helen's a little bit embarrassed, and you know, uh, but the narrator and um and the drug the druggist and um everything like that is very much still keeping with the same kind of ominous tone. Um,
Yeah. And I think it can sound more ominous because of the contrast with them being so, lackadaisical about it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that contrast will help with that.
yeah, yeah. And I kept repeating Helen's lines because I kept feeling like it was like, that sounded like a dude, or like that sounded like uh. So maybe also just like even though Helen's lines are short at this point, like still make them distinct. Um, keep the same voices before.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's okay if she has a deeper voice. She can be someone who's maybe a little more like gender neutral, even, or just
yeah,
maybe like the tomboy of their group or something. Like you can make her something different. She doesn't have to be a girly girl or have a really high pitched voice. And some women have deeper voices naturally. So I think that's perfectly okay.
yeah. Whenever I do like a woman's voice and they're like solid, 100% female, um, I there's just kind of like I just make the voice a little bit brighter. And there's just a couple times I forgot to do that with Helen where I was like, I
Yeah.
apologize versus I apologized, you know.
Hmm.
Um, like I would say that like whenever I talk for a girl, like I always kind of put a little bit of a smile in my voice, just I apologized, you know. But
Yeah. So it's brightening it up, maybe adding a little nasality, giving it
yeah,
a little twang, like something to make the character a little more distinct.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then that gives you flexibility to move around the range a little bit, like
Yeah,
because
I
you can
think
still do
so.
I apologized, which is still fairly deep, but sounds
Yeah.
still like it's the girl.
Right. It doesn't have to just be pitch that you're changing to create the character voices. It can be all kinds of different aspects of that character voice. So I think that's great that you're thinking about other ways that you can change the voice to make it clear.
Mhm. Yeah. Can I try it one more time?
Yeah, let's do it.
That half? Okay.
Sure.
They tapped their empty soda glasses down, each with a vanilla mustache on their upper lip, which they found with their tongues, laughing. You see how silly, said Lavinia. All that riot for nothing. How embarrassing. I'm sorry, said Helen faintly. The clock said 11:30 now. They had come out of the dark theater, away from the fluttering rush of men and women hurrying everywhere, nowhere on the street, while laughing at Helen. Helen was trying to laugh at herself. Helen, when you ran up that aisle crying lights, I thought I'd die. That poor man. The theater manager's brother from Racine. I apologized, said Helen, looking up at the great fan still whirling, whirling the warm late night air, stirring, restirring the smells of vanilla, raspberry, peppermint, and Lysol. We shouldn't have stopped for these sodas. The police warned. Oh, bosh the police, laughed Lavinia. I'm not afraid of anything. The lonely one is a million miles of the lonely one is a million miles away now. We won't be back for he won't be back for weeks, and the police will get him then. Just wait. Wasn't the film wonderful? Closing up, ladies. The druggist switched off the lights in the cool, white tiled silence.
Hmm. Yeah, good. That was better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. That was awesome. Good.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you for stepping outside your comfort zone because I know that that's been a really daunting, intimidating thing for you. That you've
Yeah.
been like, oh, I don't know if I want to mess with female characters. Um, so I'm really proud of you for trying it, for being like, I'm gonna try something that's kind of scary to me. I love it. Awesome. Good.
Thanks.
Well, keep up the great work this week, Brigham. That was great.
Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Absolutely. So keep practicing because the more you practice, the better it's going to get. Okay.
Right.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
Well, keep up that good work and I'll see you soon.
Awesome. See you in a couple weeks.
Bye, Brigham.